Hey. Welcome to the Death of a Dream podcast. You've made it. We're all here. We are excitedly building to next level stuff because next week actually holds the episode which will need to be celebrated everywhere. That is the 369 episode. And I remember when I thought to myself, 269 was actually the song that I was thinking of, and I was wrong. And I remember saying on that podcast, on episode 269, that I can't wait to get to episode 369 so that I can sing that song. And guess what? That happens next week, and you better believe that day we are going to sing the fullness of that song. 369, damn near fine, do it to me, suck it to me one more time, get low. That's right, you heard it here first. So if you're getting excited for that, go ahead and mark your beautiful little calendars. That will happen as it just so happens here on New Year's Eve. On Christmas Eve. Sorry, Christmas Eve. And what a beautiful build up to celebrate a holiday. I can't even imagine a better date for that to happen on. So, 369, it's coming. Okay, that was weird. I don't know why I just said that, but now you're ready. Now your calendar's marked. Go ahead and send me all the love on that day because the amounts of streams, the amounts of episodes, we should be celebrating on a normal episodic celebration timetable, but we just can't. 369 is the date, the celebration date. It's not normal. I'm here for it. I don't even care. Does anybody else celebrate their 369th episode? No, probably not, because most people probably aren't crazy enough to have 369 episodes of a podcast, but here we are. It's beautiful. Do we celebrate because it lines up with a song that was instrumental in me celebrating my youth? Absolutely. Get low, get low, get low, get low. To the window, to the wall, to the wall. Anyways, that's next week. Get excited for it. It's going to happen. We're going to celebrate it the whole time. We should probably only celebrate the 100th episode, the 200th episode, the 300th episode. Trust, this is not your normal podcast show, okay? If it was, well, it isn't. Okay, that's all. All right, let's go ahead and ground ourselves in our greatness because, there really is no other way to start the day here, people. Here we go. My great thing from yesterday. Gosh, I had one too. I didn't really think about it all that much. You know what? Honestly, my 4-year-old has been waking up having crazy schedules. And last night I got home and I was I feel and she was saying this, Mom, I just want to be with you. I need to be with you. And, my schedule for the past 6+ months has pretty much been so child driven, me being there, me picking up, me dropping off, which is still happening. But then me being home after school and just a lot of me time. And so now my schedule is ramping up to start working on different projects. And so that means a little less me time. And so, my beautiful little 4-year-old is noticing less mom time. And so that has disrupted her sleep schedule. So when I got home last night, I laid down, I kind of felt the weight of my own blankets, and I realized, that's so comforting. And I don't know that she has that. So I went and put on one of my heavier blankets on top of her. And I don't know, she may just be exhausted from weeks of turmoiled sleep. But she was still in the same exact position that she was when I placed her there last night. And so that is amazing because she's been coming into my room, then coming to my room, tossing and turning, and then waking up right about the time that I do the podcast. She may still walk in here, but even not leaving her bed and being in the same position, that's big steps. And, it was just that thought of I mean, the weighted blankets, they're all over the place. Weighted blankets. And I don't have an official weighted blanket, but I do have a blanket that my mother-in-law made for me that I went ahead and used last night and placed it over her. And it's like one of those huge, chunky knit blankets. And it's the most beautiful thing that I've ever received, probably. And so I used that last night because that's a very heavy, heavy blanket. And she's still there. Is there a better win than a child sleeping soundly? There probably is. But when you're really in the depths of your child's youth, there definitely is not. So that's my great thing. Okay. Child sleeping. And while that's not me, I will go ahead and take a little bit of a win there for having this beautiful thought pop into my head about the anxiety and the beauty of like laying in bed and feeling the weight of your own blankets. I'm just saying. Anyways, like parent of the year, go ahead, give the trophy early. I know it's a little early. We're not through 2020 yet. I still have like 2 weeks where I could get it really wrong, but like I probably win. So yeah, go ahead. You can send it my way. Okay, that's my great thing. There are no parenting trophies for those of you who aren't parents, for those of you who are parents who are like, what? No, you're not winning it because I already won it. Okay, it's not a battle. There are no trophies. No one wins. We're all pretty much losing and winning at the same time. That's kind of the beauty of parenting. It's like the worst, best thing you'll ever do. Okay, so go ahead, take time, recognize yourself for your own great thing. I'm just saying, like, there's a practice that you could do that would be something else, and that might be awesome, but like, it's nothing like greatness grounding. So go ahead, try it out, try it on, see how it fits, see how it feels. I don't know, call me crazy, but I've seen the impact. So today we're talking about like, why did we all just become resumes? And we've hit on this before, and probably like very offensively early on in the podcast, where like I'm just blatantly pissed and aware that the checkboxes on my resume are probably never going to be enough, because inevitably that's all that matters, right? And I have been reading and researching this idea of success in our generation, success in the generation before us, success in the next generation, and this kind of promise and guarantee of success without anyone accurately defining what that is. And there was kind of this general call and awareness early on that if you went to college, you would be successful. And so I was just like, oh, cool. Well, I don't really have to know what I want to study there, right? You just get to go here, and then like that just opens the Pandora's box of success. So here for that, especially for me, because I wasn't all that great at school. So I was just like, I just have to like show up. And I figured that out really early on in my classes, that you could just show up. Like literally just showing up for classes, I would get a whole grade increase for just going to class every day. And so guess what? Hey, guess what? This consistent girl who can do a podcast every day for 2 years just went to class every day. Because I was like, well, I might bomb a test, but even if I bomb a test, even if I do really bad, I probably am still guaranteed at least C. Which, like, right? C's get degrees, and I'm here for it. I'm really only here for this guarantee of success. So whether I did well or not, like if I leave here with a degree, I'll be successful. That's pretty much what I thought. That's pretty much what I was told. And whatever, and I think that thought process, that's the only track, right, has led us all kind of astray. Not that there are bad or good options. Like going to college is a beautiful journey. Not going to college is a beautiful journey. Learning a trade is a beautiful journey. Traveling the world is a beautiful journey. Like all options are beautiful and fitting for everyone. And I think, for me, I wasn't really presented any other options. It was like, you're going to be successful. Success looks like college. Go to college. If you don't do that, you'll certainly be an embarrassment to your family, and you'll be like the kid who got it wrong and is forever unsuccessful. So just go to college. And I don't think that comes from a place of like hate and certain demise. I think it comes from a generation of people who were really vastly disoriented into this world. They had similar things, but it wasn't the same. And then they go, they live, they take risks, they get college degrees, they're successful or they aren't. And they kind of develop this idea that, you'll get there. You just got to work hard, like the generation before us. And different, right, from the generation before us, because you're impacted by, I would say, right around the time that I was graduating high school, all of a sudden the recession hit. And I wasn't aware of that at all. No idea. But I'm certain that my parents were. And, here's the thing. It's like success, and then some people all of a sudden also had to figure out how to survive. And whatever that looked like for you. Maybe the recession hit for you and all of a sudden success wasn't the driver. Like, it had been success and we were working so hard towards that. And then all of a sudden it was like, how do we even feed people now? Success has to come off the table. We got to survive here, right? And think about when that happened. And so it's not at fault. Like, all of a sudden it was like, okay, how do I make myself marketable? How do I survive this, but then figure out how to thrive on the other side of that survival? And so that looked like going back to school for a lot of people. That looked like maybe surviving a divorce for a lot of people. And so all of a sudden we're being raised by people that are going through this, that are figuring out how to survive, that are figuring out that like what was accepted before doesn't work anymore. And so that kind of turned into this like killer, we have to survive and we have to thrive and we have to find success. And so that meant like never stopping to breathe, never stopping to live, just like killing yourself. Because not only are you supposed to be successful, you're also supposed to help other people survive, because you're also raising kids in this. And so all of a sudden the pressure that was, right here, and with the generation that raised this generation, the kind of boomer generation, gonna have those same stressors, right? Like a lot of that generation got to hang out. If you were a female, you probably stayed home and raised babies. And so like you can't even lean on a support system for help through this. You're like out on your own trying to figure out how to live in this world. The world that you were raised in doesn't exist anymore. And so, boom. Now what? Right? And you're raising up kids and you're trying to figure out how to like not let them be impacted by this, right? Because heaven forbid we impact these kids. And so we're telling those kids that we're raising, as we're trying to figure out how to survive, how to thrive, how to do all the things, we're setting such a great example of what work ethic and survival looks like. And we all learn from that. That's beautiful. And we're also raising and setting that expectation that this is what success looks like. Now, let's go ahead and forgive and love both generations. Like, what a amazing journey for the generation before us to go through, right? To like set a precedence, to set an example of what life looks like, to be handed a life that was supposed to work out and then just like didn't. And then to pick yourself up from your bootstraps and to figure out like, how do you thrive from here? How do you survive here? Like, what a beautiful example. we'll never have a better one. And so I think where the divide kind of comes in between the two generations, because now there's like this, oh, millennials, you're so soft, you're so, right? Because we're all like burnt out. I think it's this, exactly what we talked about. We saw that generation like work and work and work and work, figure out how to survive, figure out how to help all of us, and then you're telling us like it's your resume, it's the college you go to, it's all these things. And so we were raised by people who were vastly impacted by not having the right resume for a world that was changing, right? And so it's no wonder that that kind of came down as the message. Hey, if you want to be successful, you have to have these bullet points. It's important. And now those people who raised a generation of people who are kind of obsessed with bullet points on a resume, right? They're making the decisions. And so no wonder resume bullet points matter more now than they ever did before. Imagine, how did that happen? I don't know. Right? And it mattered and it hurt that generation before us. And so now it's like, oh, we're going to judge you on those things before we give you a chance, because that's kind of how we were judged, right? Okay, great. Here's what. For a lot of us, no matter what generation you're in, we've lost this idea that life is supposed to be fun. I know, I'll say it again because it probably just made your heart stop a little bit, because it did mine. That life is supposed to be fun and enjoyed. Huh? What? Right? And I think, no fault to anyone. This is kind of this is where the line is drawn. No fault of anyone. But for millennials, we'll go ahead and call that generation out. Right? We were told that success needed to look like this. And so early on, right, we got this picture in our heads of like, okay, then get that, then get this. And even if you didn't have parents who were stressing that, you probably had other people's parents stressing that, right? Where it was like, oh no, they're just going to, well, I know for me, it was like, they're just going to let this girl wander and chase crazy dreams. Like, you can't be a Division I athlete. That's not, no. You should probably, Hannah, have your parents told you that you need to know what you're going to school for? No. No, I'm going to school to play volleyball. Right? But like, that's just it. You're impacted by it regardless. There was a lot of stress and turmoil and trauma that came from the generation that we kind of grew up in. And so that was passed on. No, that's not going to be good enough. You have to have this. Hannah, really? You're not planning for your school? Like, you don't. I remember kids in my class, like, stressing out so much because they had to get this grade or they had to do this activity. But I don't remember anything being like, oh, I did that because I genuinely enjoyed it. Most people were like, I did that because, it was going to show the school. It was going to show. And I didn't even go to a super pretentious or, like, well-to-do school that was like stressing, it wasn't some Ivy League feeder high school. It was like we were trying to get into state schools, and how did you do that, right? And so, everybody kind of had this cloud of success, not as something to aspire to, as something that was pressured to do. It was like, you have to do these things. You can't aimlessly wander. That's dangerous. We're worried about you if that's the route that you're called to take. And, like, how did we get here? Well, I think it's not so easy that it can be explained in any one podcast or any one book, but like, how did we end up in this, like, with millennials feeling completely burnout and not understanding what they even want to do, I think it was that promise that college would equate as success. And then the check balance system of how we continued to do that, of like, oh, this child's successful, this one's not. Okay, well, bless her heart, she tries hard. She just isn't making it. Well, like, it isn't that simple of a measure, right? Like, there is no exact equation of what is or isn't success. And if you have an equation, it might be kind of important to communicate that, right? Or to stop communicating that. Like, your success does not equal what someone else's does. And the only thing that's important is that they know what theirs is and that they're going after that, right? And so this idea that we're just resumes, we're just bullet points, that was stressed so early on. And I don't know, like, does it even need to be? Do we even need to live within those confines? Well, yeah, in the normal world as it sits right now, because of who's making the decisions, yes, it probably has to. But do we have to keep abiding by that? Can people kind of create and navigate life as they see fit, right? Or, and I think this is where a lot of people are going. We know what success looks like for us. And if we don't have to live in a world where we're judged solely by these black and white pieces of ink on a piece of paper, then we don't want to, right? If we don't have to live in that world, that's not what happiness is going to look like, right? That's not what determines who I am and how successful I am. Then maybe we just build something ourselves, because that's kind of an exhaustive place to live in. When you know that you're capable of doing more, when you know that you are beyond what your resume can speak to, and other people don't see that, right? Because they don't want to, or because they aren't allowed to. And I think that's a lot of the instances. Like, we're still very much in this world that is doctrined by where you went to school, or the amount of years that you've spent somewhere, and we're kind of refusing to look at the wholeness of a person. Trust. There was a lot of anger early on in this journey that was kind of tied to that. It was like, Hannah, you didn't go to the right schools. Hannah, yeah, you got the degrees, but, and maybe I just truly, like, that wasn't the calling, that wasn't the place for me. And so I totally get that journey. But, at the end of the day, sometimes we don't know what is just a lesson to be learned and what is just not meant to be. We like to think, my angry self would like to think that it was meant to be, and someone had held me back from it. How dare they judge me, right? But I think, as we continue to move on, seeing people, your children, the people you're hiring, the people you're firing, the people that you work with, as more than just where they went to school, like, as more than just the activities that they participate in, like, the wholeness of a person, what makes up a person is so far beyond anything that they could ever write down, and the more that I think we pay attention to that, the better off we're all about to be. And that's not just in, like, the confines of a workspace. That's just humans. Let's just start seeing humans as humans, for humans, and start to navigate the world in that way. What happens then? What happens when we aren't so keen on who's going to provide what for me here, right? Who can I connect with that can get me connected to the next thing? What is this person going to give me, right? And we just start showing up in service, in just pure love of meeting someone and exploring their journey and learning more about them, just to, not even support, but just to like know someone for the pure joy and sake of knowing someone, meeting a new person, making a friend. Like, what happens when we just go at it like that? What happens when we aren't shaking hands and saying, like, I'm this person, this is what I'm connected to, this is what I know, this is why you should know me, this is why I'm successful, and okay, now you know. Goodbye. Right? Like, what do we do? How do we react and start presenting ourselves as more than just a LinkedIn profile or a reason to know someone? How do we start connecting with people? Like real connection? I don't know. I think we stop presenting ourselves as what has been asked, right? Like, I struggle all the time with how I introduce myself. What do I say? What do I even write on a profile? Who am I? Who do I want people to know me as? What do I want them to know? And it's this interesting kind of disconnect of where the world has been and probably where it's headed. And we might be early here on this podcast, but hopefully where it's headed is in this new place where we aren't looking at the things that people had access to, right? Like, it's really not fair. That's, oh my gosh, this is gonna sound super typical millennial, but I'm gonna say it anyways. It really isn't fair when you think about it to judge someone off of what they had access to. So, we can't really not hire someone because they couldn't probably go to like a Harvard, right? For some of us, financially, never gonna happen, right? But like, is that necessary to the degree, or can we, right, to the vocation, or can we judge someone based on who they're presenting as, right? Like, how do they show up in life? Do they genuinely enjoy life? Are they just a good person to be around? Is that probably at the end of the day more important? Yeah. Sometimes we get misled by only looking at the resume points on a resume. Sometimes that can like take us places we didn't want to go, where people are only showing up as that and they aren't really showing up as anything else. And so it's hard to build camaraderie with people who are even brought in that way and who are so committed to being that person and only that person, right? There's no personality outside of that. And it's not at fault of anyone. This is just where we are, right? Like, it's such a beautiful place to be at in this world. And this is just where we've kind of all ended up. And people who are showing up as resumes, you got hurt. And you got told that that was going to equate success. And so that's what was most important. And you're still being judged by those things. So you're not wrong, right? The world might be wrong. And, I think the bigger disservice is that you got hurt by that. And then you raised kids to protect them from that same hurt. And, like, that hurts all of us. And we can all begin to heal from that. And the way that we heal from it is to start acknowledging that we're all more. We're all on a bigger path. We're all just seeking happiness, and stop holding everyone accountable to success that can't even be clearly defined. Forgive yourself for being hurt by that. As always, you're smart, you're strong, you're beautiful. What are you going to do? Change the world.